got all excited to paint on the mask of the swan, and I decided to go ahead and start painting the reeds, the cattails behind the swan. And as soon as I got started, I'm like, ugh, should have done the sky first. Background first, and then the middle ground, and then the foreground. But sometimes that happens. I get ahead of myself. So I'm going to go ahead and paint behind the swan so that you can see that. I'm going to paint some of the greens. And I'm using a round, and I'm gonna have to paint like a row of the greens and let it dry, and then I'm gonna paint the water and let that dry. But you can see that where I'm touching on to the swan, that paint is not sticking. That's the mask. And this is all paintbrush strokes. And I'll let that just to start suggesting that there's cattail grasses back there. I'm going to pause it for a second and blow dry it and come back. Back. Trying to decide now if I want to go ahead and paint some more on the cattails or if I want to go ahead and do some in the water. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put some in the water. I'm mixing my blues right into my greens. And that's okay because the cattail branches they'd be reflecting into the water anyway. I just have orange in there, and I kind of wish the orange wasn't getting in there. So now my water, I decided, I could use the dry brush method like I did up top, but I feel like using paintbrush strokes. I might not fill the whole thing in. I might let the paintbrush strokes show some of the white of the paper in between. Kind of pretty color. Let that set for a minute. I'm telling you, that's the hardest thing, is to let things set for a minute and go back and do something else. My cattails are looking okay. I like the way that the colors blended while it was wet, but I just feel like getting some depth. So I'm going to put a little bit brighter green in there. And I want them to be irregularly spaced so that they look maybe more natural. As long as I keep working around that outline of the bird, he'll show up. I've got a smaller paintbrush. Look at that, about the little tiny flats. Oh, the great big flats, making little tiny lines. Let's try that out. Because I was just thinking I really would like to have some cattails sticking up and out, and let's just use some of those paintbrush stroke practices. Oop, looks like it's going to be speared right out of his head. That'll be funny. Maybe I don't want him speared right out of his head. Let's try a little lift off. Can't lighten that up a little bit, make it less noticeable.